so much as penalties. And we took a fair call and we said it is not possible to be up because we do take some shutdowns once a year or twice a year. We are going to be out for 30 minutes, an hour or so. It made sense because we knew how much we'll be penalized. So in that situation, we decided knowingly not to comply with the requirements. But in another situation, and as an example, you talked about car driving, so you would decide, should I put a speed governor on my car or should I instead be okay with overspeeding? If I know how many times I want to overspeed and I know the cost of the ticket that I'll pay or the fine that I'll have, I may decide not to have the governor. But if I don't know what's going to happen or what's the amount of penalty that will grow up, it may be better to put the governor. So that's my answer to this.
Thank you, Sunil, and you were only 20 seconds over, so that's very good. Thank you.
Well, from our perspective as a service provider, I think compliance and security are the conditions of doing work for our customer. And it is absolutely necessary that we adhere to that. And I would hate to be in a situation where we are ending up paying penalties and not actually ending up adhering to the compliance and the security norms. That's my. If the costs of adhering to the compliance or the security is turning out to be expensive, I would much rather have a proactive dialogue with our client rather than actually end up paying fines. It's a question about our image, our reputation, and more importantly, the business of our customers. I mean, their customers' business rather than we losing the business. That inevitably will happen, but it is addressing any risks associated with our customers' business.
See, I think anyway you have to be compliant. You have to be, law of the land. I think you have to be. There is no question of paying fines, etc. But you have to be more. I mean, for example, Sarbanes-Oxley doesn't exist in India, but many of our American customers are SOX compliant, and they need their offshore development center to have corresponding compliance. They will do SAS 70 audit and so on and so forth. So I think from a TCS perspective, it is more than just being compliant to what India needs. It's being compliant to a superset of rules and regulations what our customers in different countries need. So it's one step above.
You still have 12 seconds. Thank you.
For the last many years, Ernst & Young has been conducting something called the Global Information Security Survey. This year is the 12th year that we have been doing. And up till 2007, compliance was the chief driver, which is driving security. So compliance was driving security. Last year onwards and current year, we see a change. Compliance is no longer the most important driver for information security. It is the brand, it's a reputation, it's a market share, which is driving, and rightly so, which is driving information security. But does compliance and regulators have a role? Yes, they do. Because in the entire chain, there can be some unscrupulous service provider. And it's very difficult for a customer at the end or up the value chain to find out how the scruples of these people are. And that's where the regulator can step in and make sure that there are some basic minimum standards that they can dictate for a country as a whole.
Thank you very much, Terry. Right on.
I think it is a little bit of both. Compliance drives security measures, especially when it comes to regulatory compliance. You got to be compliant with the regulators, so you put security measures in place. But security also drives compliance in terms of you have internal security rules, which have nothing to do with regulatory compliance, but that becomes a compliance thing to adhere to which there is very little leniency. So in my mind, it's a little bit of both.
Thank you.
In my personal opinion, I think for major corporations, it's compliance plus other needs, which basically drive security. So like what Terry said, the other needs could be protecting my market share or could be protecting my assets, not just related to the law of the land, but it's overall security. And maybe for not so big corporations, it's basically the compliance, driving security at the basic level till they mature and then get on to the next level.
Thank you.
Thank you. In my telecom industry, I think it's much more than compliance. It's about branding and long-term reputation. And I think compliance is very, very secondary. The branding and the long-term reputation is of utmost importance. And, the IT Act 2007, which has recently come into force, has come only recently, whereas, all these securities have been implemented for all these years in the Indian telcos. That's one part, and the other is, the competitive knowledge which could get leaked out. So it's a very, very competitive, environment that we operate in, and the leak out of the competitive knowledge is, absolutely important to us. So these are the things that drive us, our security implementation.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, I was trying to listen to you and listen to Nisha. I'm sorry, was the 60-second question to me, please? Oh. Oh, hey. The same 60-second question to you, I understand. Sorry, we have one extra chair. I'm sorry, I was confused on one.
Need for securing data, what risk you can measure, what risk you can avoid, or what the risk you can take it. And that's purposely that particular section. I'm trying to explain the question 3 only. It does not talk about the best practices. It talks about the reasonable security practices. That's the purpose there. And the same thing which we feel that it's the compliance or the reasonable security practices which is applicable for that particular case, particular scenario, particular instance should be implemented to put to the data, to avoid data theft or implement data security part of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was pretty much on time as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a quick recap, a quick wrap-up of some of the quick comments that I picked out I thought were really relevant. Under the area of challenges, geographic locations obviously were a challenge. Looking at this from a strategic view, recognizing people of all levels, from the single contributor all the way up to the boardroom. Key, I believe, was also mentioned was the contracting process, to make sure that's well developed and working with that. Know what you're protecting from intellectual property or customer data and take care of those things. Rules and regulations around the world, which I see is a tremendous challenge. How do you comply with those? And then providing services using single sources that are also providing the same services to your competition is a challenge. The success story, I think one of the first things I picked out was not necessarily the story, but the concept, and that's that India is a safe destination for your business and your data. I think that's really crucial. There was discussion about savings in personnel by doing things this right way. Security framework, very key in making a good success. The other things which you don't hear very often, but I think was vitally important, is understanding why you do these things. And I think we oftentimes miss that, particularly with employees and customers and stuff. The other thing was you don't spend all your time talking with the